conspiracy theorist Lin Wood, who is also one of Donald Trump's, or was Donald Trump's lawyer, is now under investigation for, wait for it, voting illegally. Oh, the irony. Such good irony. All right, so details. Now, the Georgia Secretary of State's office is now investigating allegations that Wood, a high-profile Trump attorney who launched fruitless challenges to election results and pushed baseless conspiracies of voter fraud, may have illegally voted himself in the November general election. Because, of course. Shocker! This is my shock face. Oh, I'm sorry, a Trump supporter doing voter fraud? Huh? No. Oh my God. No way. All right. So now, this is, according to a report, that Wood had played a crucial role in former President Donald Trump's efforts to undermine the election, which of course is the irony. And this came from Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office, who has confirmed the investigation was opened after a reporter from WSB-TV in Atlanta, in Georgia, had posted an email from Wood where he basically admitted that I don't live in Georgia. He said he had been, quote, domiciled in South Carolina for several months after purchasing property in the state back in April. State investigators now have to determine if Wood actually lived in South Carolina or in Georgia when he voted early and in person for the November general election. Oh, that is fantastic. That's great. Look, okay, so Lin Wood, if you're not familiar, Lin Wood, I'm sure you are, but he's crazy. This guy's crazy pants. He's going around talking about, insane conspiracy theories. He's a QAnon supporter, and he's like, Donald Trump, he had the election stolen from him, see, and it was QAnon, and it was Dominion voting systems, and it was all these things, and that's why Donald Trump's really president. And you got all this voter fraud that's happening. And by the way, I think I might have also actually done voter fraud. Oops. Sad. These he also, by the way, as a lawyer, had filed a bunch of hilarious lawsuits that were very, very sad and filled with typos. For example, he accidentally wrote one of his lawsuits was filed under, quote, plenty of perjury instead of penalty. Look, maybe that's a mistake, maybe that's a typo, or maybe he's being super honest and saying, I got plenty of perjury for you. I got tons of it, tons and tons of perjury, tremendous perjury, the best perjury. I don't know, but it is pretty funny. Look, he was also suspended and then banned off Twitter after posting support for the Capitol insurrection. Here's what he said: "The time has come, patriots, time to fight for our freedom." That was hours before the failed insurrection by the president. The president and his supporters, the president, of course, egged them on, and you had a whole rally, Stop the Steal, which, by the way, Lin Wood has been at many, many Stop the Steal rallies as well in Georgia. And so, he's been part of this entire thing, egging people on, spreading conspiracies, telling people this election's stolen from you, and you gotta fight, and you gotta time to take our country back, patriots. Well, all while saying it was the voter fraud and then doing the voter fraud. Yeah. So Wood also had posts deleted from Parler. Remember Parler? Parler no longer exists. It's no longer up. They can't find a web host for it. Even so, he had posts deleted from Parler that called for the killing of Mike Pence. And then frequently, of course, shared QAnon conspiracies. It's bad when your posts get deleted by Parler. They're like, ooh, no, this parlay is too hot for me. Nope. Let me get rid of that. Cover our ass there. I mean, look, here's the thing. I don't like Mike Pence. Not a fan.
Mike Pounds.
Okay. I don't like Republican politicians in general. Generally, right? I actually think the Republican Party itself as an apparatus is a cancer on the United States of America and society. The world would be better off if no one ever voted Republican ever again. That includes, by the way, Republican voters. They would also be better off, especially when it comes financially, as the data shows that the economy tends to do better when Republicans are not in power. Inequality is lower. The only people that do well under Republicans are the rich. Wages actually tend to rise for regular people under Democrats, and even the stunk market does better under Democrats. Because of course, we end up having a crash under Republicans because they deregulate the crap out of everything. Now, that said, I'm not saying Democrats are great. Democrats got problems. But it just seems like Republican policies are just demonstrably terrible for the country, for America and the world in general, and only helps, again, the very, very few. All right? And so, that said, all aside, my point is, though, even though Republican politicians are terrible, I don't want to see them harmed. I don't want to see them killed. I don't want to see them harmed in any shape or form. Do I want to see them yelled at? Yes. Do I want to see them get owned on Twitter? Absolutely. That's fun. But nobody gets hurt. I mean, yes, their fifis get hurt, and that's sad, and they cry. But I enjoy that. I enjoy Republican tears. But you lose me at physical violence. This is true. Unless, of course, it's to defend yourself, which is totally fine. And that's really the difference here, okay? The right wing tends to use violence and threats of violence and intimidation in order to keep people, mostly minorities, in line. That's what they do. And so, I'm not in favor of that. All right, but anyway, Wood responded to the allegations on Tuesday evening, writing this, quote, I was domiciled in Atlanta in October of 2020 and was a resident of Georgia at the time. I've been a resident of Georgia since 1955. But wait, in the email you admitted that you had been actually domiciled in South Carolina. So, what is it? What is it? What is it? He also said, well, I own properties in both Georgia and South Carolina. I changed my residence to South Carolina on February 1st, 2021. So really it comes down to the timing, right? He also said on Telegram, quote, I'm leaving Georgia and changing my residency to South Carolina after he said that Georgia had, quote, falsely accused and shunned me. He also wrote that Raffensperger was a, quote, loser and who is going to jail. You first, dude. You might be going first. Again, turns out voter fraud, voting illegally, kind of a crime in this country. Who knew? Who knew? Now, the investigation, of course, is going to find out what the truth actually is. And they're even looking into some of his posts on Telegram to figure out his intentions, basically. If he had planned to actually live in South Carolina before he cast his vote, which would run afoul of course, Georgia election law. Georgia state code says that if a person moves to another state with the intention of remaining there for an indefinite time and making such a state the person's place of residence, which ultimately Lin Wood did, then they are no longer considered to be eligible to vote in Georgia. So really it kind of goes down to, the timing here, right? So if he was living in South Carolina and was intending to stay in South Carolina during the election, but then since he was registered to vote in Georgia and not in South Carolina where he was living, so he goes in person to Georgia to vote in person even though he lived in South Carolina, that would be voter fraud, basically. And so they've got to prove that, right? Now, that might be a difficult case to prove, but they're talking about that anyway. Now, this also does say one big thing about him, in that maybe he doesn't know that much about election law. Given that he is a lawyer who has made voter fraud a central thing that he likes to talk about, you would think you would know this law. Maybe he's not that smart, though. Also, it does confirm that the system does work. So did he vote in both states? No, he did not. As far as I know, he voted in Georgia, even though he was living in South Carolina, which would, again, be considered voter fraud, at least under state law, Georgia state law. But again, it confirms how the system actually does work. You know that thing about rampant fraud, right? It turns out that's bullshit, because we end up having an actually pretty robust system. And we've had for a long time before Donald Trump, because I love how they come out and say, oh, well, you didn't find voter fraud this time. Even though we said you found tons of voter fraud, and that's why Joe Biden won, you actually didn't, because Donald Trump did such a great job. Okay, but wait a minute. So either the system does work and it's Donald Trump's fault, or he gets all the credit for it, or it actually doesn't work and then Donald Trump didn't do anything because of all the voter fraud. They got to get their story straight, okay? But as far as I know, we have a pretty robust system that catches voter fraud, and prevents it from happening, from affecting elections. And so, okay, the only time that we seem to find voter fraud, too, is not from the people that they're accusing of voter fraud. It tends to be Trump voters. Who would have known? Oh, wait, all of us. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.